Welcome to the Emblazers show, where B2B leaders are igniting revenue. I'm Abby Kerr, your Season 2 co-host, and I am with the Emblaze Revenue Community by Corporate Visions. Now, my co-host, Tim Riesterer, will be back for our regular episodes any day now, but today I want to share with you a special conversation that Tim recently had with Eileen Brooker, and I will be popping in now and then for some commentary. So Eileen Brooker is Vice President of Worldwide GTM Training and Enablement at Palo Alto Networks, the largest cybersecurity company in the world. Her career began in high tech at IBM, where she discovered her passion for sales, eventually leading teams on a global scale and becoming a corporate officer at Extreme Networks. After transitioning to cybersecurity at Proofpoint, Eileen found her calling in enablement, a field she now leads globally at Palo Alto Networks. A survivor of multiple myeloma, she embraces life with humor, love, and generosity, mentoring future leaders and inspiring those around her with her authenticity and resilience. Let's take a listen to Tim and Eileen in conversation.
Well, I'm excited about this day because you just have to go to Eileen's LinkedIn and see. It says unapologetically authentic. And I'm excited because sales enablement is evolving so hard and so fast. And our audience is got sales enablement leaders and just revenue leaders in general, whose job is to coach and to equip and to enable. So the people we're talking to today are your people, especially given your sales background. I would just love to hear, you've seen the transformation, the overused word, but you're seeing it. I would love to hear, like, what do you got your eyes on right now that are really driving the next move in sales enablement and coaching from your perspective?
Yeah, and it's interesting, Tim, because it is evolving, I think, faster than ever before. Because our personas, whether they are technical or sales driven, have to know more than they ever did before. They have to understand not just how to do discovery and do sales. They have to understand how the technology works. The customers expect the rep not to always be tethered to an SE or some sort of domain expert. So that what's on the shoulders of the reps is quite large. And at the same time, that district manager, the first level line manager, has the hardest job in show business, because they have to know absolutely everything and everything comes crashing down. So I see the transformation in enablement really doubling down on micro learning and little nuggets that are going to help them in their jobs and not over rotate on training. And I think we all have to be very conscious of what our expectations are of our users as far as the amount that they need to consume on training in any given month. And if it goes over a double percentage, that's too much. They have to understand what's happening. But at the same time, what's changing, I think, Tim, is that we're moving from a one-size-fits-all enablement training to more personalized adaptive learning for the user and meeting them where they are and challenging them where they need to be or want to be, more importantly. And, self-education is really on the shoulders of the user. But I really think having something personalized so we can get the proficiencies that we need and then make those reps and those SEs and our partners and anyone that we're enabling more skilled and smarter at what they do. And so I think it's, just-in-time learning is really the one that's on the table now.
It's been the dream, right? I think we've always known as people who develop people, like the closer you can get the learning to the moment of need. I like to call it deficit learning. The moment that you intercede, I guess, in a spotted sort of deficit is better. But what's breaking through? What's made this now possible? And good thing we live long enough to see this. I'm just kind of excited about that. But what things have happened that now make just in time, adaptive, personalized, all those dreams now come true?
Well, and I really think AI is a forcing function there. It allows us to understand where the learner is based on past history of consumption, how they scored on it. We can analyze what they have in Salesforce for opportunities to see where they are, and then using AI to do that just-in-time learning for that person. I think if you try to do the peanut butter approach, you lose students, and then they just don't want to learn. They don't want to do the next enablement track. So if you can make it more personalized on their use cases, where they are and the attributes of their deals and where they have consumed and performed before, that's the magic. And that's really where AI can help. AI is scary and it's good. And in this case, it's really good. And you're not wasting time of the seller, because at the end of the day, that's the game. You give them more time to sell, then that's bottom line revenue to the company. And so we have to be conscious of that all the time.
Well, I always say, like, you have to eliminate plausible deniability. Like when you spread the peanut butter. I love that analogy, although I love peanut butter. So, you can do that all day long. Like I eat by the tablespoon, right out of the jar. That's where you have to put my name on the jars. Too much information. The idea that that these signals that you're using to personalize this, have you found any that you think are the most accurately predictive of what a seller needs? Because there's a lot of data we could be taken in from a lot of different sources. Anything in particular that you think will trigger the smartest remediation?
We do like practical application. And I think when you can see what a learner has absorbed and really understood and really, had that experience, and then we force them to go through what they probably hate, but it's role plays and it's doing back and forth discovery. And, thanks to, your company, we've been working on such amazing discovery tools. So we know what that learner needs to do. But I think it's really giving them access to what they need at that time. But yeah, it's the struggle is real.
Yeah. Well, the role play, like, it's so funny. We all go, okay, I got to say it. Role play.
Yeah.
Are you and managers are already tapped out. Is that an area you're looking at in terms of leveraging AI as some way to make that real and make it happen?
Absolutely. The platform that we use, we do use AI for. So, we can put in whatever rubric and whatever we want the questions to be and answers that they should be. And we put that into the system, and then we go through the role play. It is AI graded. And what's great about it, it's actually harsher than what the managers grade, because it's really looking for what best looks like. Because we can input, this is the best, this is what good looks like. And so it can be measured against what we think is the golden standard, where managers, God love them, to your point, don't have the time. And sometimes they may not really be looking for those nuggets that we have seen work before, right? They haven't been exposed to it. Now, the problem with it, though, a lot of the platforms for AI role play, they're adapting to new languages. English is the primary. Where we do still struggle, and I'm sure everybody on the phone understands this, is in Asia Pacific. It's really a challenge based on the dialects and the different cultures and languages. So we have to get people on our team, on the enablement team, to be able to look at that. So that is still evolving, but it's pretty good right now.
So next, Tim asks Eileen, what are some unique ways she's been able to enable training? Let's see what she has to say.
You got to push boundaries. You've got to just, see what works, make it better, and come up with ideas that other people aren't coming up with, and be bold enough to push the decision makers to where you need to get them. And, one of the places that we looked at was onboarding. oh, it's very scary. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of investment, but it's so important. And when I came onto Palo Alto Networks and I looked at what our onboarding experience was for our reps and for our SEs, it didn't give them the tools in the arsenal to be able to really go out there and hunt and know what they were doing. And they almost it was on the job training. And then everyone was doing it a different way. There was no consistent approach to how do you sell at Palo Alto. Because I think sellers and managers know how to sell and manage, but they don't know how to sell and manage here. It's such a difference, right? So you can hire the best salesperson with a wonderful Rolodex, but how do you sell at Palo Alto? Because it's different than how you sell somewhere else. So we started something called Flight, and we really wanted to take people on different journeys and destinations. And so it ended up through a lot of turmoil, some tears, I think, maybe some more Sauvignon Blanc, too. I think I took a little bit more of that during that. But we developed a 10-week program. And it was completely supported by our CEO, Nikesh. He wanted it to make it harder, make it difficult, make it feel like they're in college and they have homework. And it's a 18-hour day. And it sounds brutal. And let's be honest, it is. And so we take these folks through a journey around the world based on their persona, because some of them are more technical sellers, some of them are BDRs, some of them are enterprise sellers, and then we have our solution consultants and our domain consultants that are totally different. And so we expect them to attend, and it's 8 hours a day, virtual live instruction. They have a facilitator that lives with them virtually through the whole process. And then they come to corporate for 2 weeks. So we make them stay the weekend. That facilitator follows them to corporate, and we have all these SMEs that come in and say, this is how you fight against the competition. Here's some use cases that are usable in your particular accounts. And they get to know these SMEs, and they get to see what the golden standard is. And then we do role plays. Again, that word role plays. And we do that in person, and they're graded and they're video, right? So this is like old IBM kind of training that I went through, which was scary. And then we send them back in their geos for 2 weeks, and then we bring them back again for another 2 weeks. So it's 4 weeks on site. They graduate while they're at corporate in week 10. And we just have so many things for them to partake in and to learn. But it has decreased the ramp time by over 33%. That's huge, right? And that's huge. And then now taking them through the new discovery solution that we have from CV, it's going to be, I think, that much better. So they're going to really know how to do proper discovery in a whiteboard session. So I'm really excited about that. So
naturally, the next question that you might expect somebody to ask, which Tim does ask Eileen, what is the overall sentiment of someone coming out of a 10-week boot camp? Let's hear what Eileen says.
What I love about this is like my babies are leaving the nest, right? And we DSMs go through the same training. And without prompting, they get their Credly badge and everything else. They will post on LinkedIn what an amazing experience it was to meet the people behind the scenes, to get to build relationships with other reps in different countries that they, will be peers and colleagues and friends for the rest of their life. They just love it. The first couple cohorts were a little rocky because we were literally changing, the plane while it was in flight. But they helped curate and create the best program. And we do change it constantly, right? It's in constant change. They love it, though. They go into it going, oh my God, are you kidding me? And they come out going, that was the best experience, and no other company in my career has ever invested in me like that. Because It's a very expensive program. So we have to not do other things in the company so we can invest in this.
If you have the results to prove it, then that investment continues. It's just so interesting in a world of nudges and micro coaching and training and all the other things that we talk about, that you kind of could overlook onboarding and the seriousness of it in terms of the trajectory of, I love the use of flight as the term for it. I picture like you're strapping on these booster rockets and you're trying to get them through Earth's gravitational pull. And then, they're out cruising and the nudging and the micro and all that helps. But given that good platform, that good foundation, and to your point, steep them in both the solution, the way to sell it, and the culture. Sales is the original remote job. And it's hard to create culture on the fly, I guess.
Yeah, and one of the best examples of success is many of our former students come back as SMEs and they run the role plays and they say, this is what it's like out there in the wild, right? And so we constantly have them come back to corporate and do, their investment for the company. They want to see all boats rise, right? Because if that happens, company makes more money, stock goes up, everyone's happy. So it's really nice to see these folks that are paid on commission and they're out there driving it, take their time to come back to corporate and, pay it forward. So it's a huge, I think, level of success of the program.
What if your next big revenue move didn't come from a blog post or a cold LinkedIn scroll, but from a real conversation with leaders who've been there?
As the world of sales is constantly evolving and constantly changing, I think it's even more critical to get together with people to understand how are they helping to solve some of the problems that our buyers have today.
Meet Emblaze, a community of sharp B2B minds, CROs, CSOs, rising stars, sharing what's actually working in sales, enablement, and customer growth.
We always find a lot of value in the partnerships that we're able to form with some of the other great organizations that are part of the team here. And personally, I love the opportunity to connect with my peer group outside of other organizations and learn from them and try to figure out if there's things that they're doing that we can pull into our organization and benefit from.
Join a monthly forum, dig into science-backed strategy, and get insight you won't find in your feed. Start your Emblaze journey today at emblazgrowth.com.
So Eileen, one of the things that you've been saying is about, the investment in onboarding is about gaining a lot of knowledge early and often, and how important it is for the team to understand the product to a level of depth that's both expected by the company and the customer. How do you balance or blend the idea that product knowledge without the skills to tell a good story, you could over-rotate there versus you give them too much skill, but they don't really have the product depth. And so then what do they have? How do you balance that? How do you find that nice even keel so that you're telling winning stories with the depth that's required?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Tim. And it's something I think we struggle with all the time because we're a technology company. We are rooted in deep technology and a very active space in cybersecurity, and just trying to keep up with the technology for our technical folks is hard enough. And so for the sellers, we really try to balance it with a certain depth. We have a program called Sonar, and for the technical folks, they go deep. They go in uncharted waters to depths that no one's gone to. The Sonar for reps is just so they can understand what the technology does and how it impacts the customer and how we can align that to pain points, and do really good discovery of not the technology, but what is the customer dealing with. And then we can align that to what we have. And it's trying to get the rep not to talk about the company and not to talk about any product names or any of our acronyms, because I think it just confuses everybody. And we want the reps have a conversation, get back that childlike, curiosity, be inquisitive, and just talk to them and ask them questions and understand what that looks like from an alignment perspective to how the company can help them. So we do augment a lot of our technical training with sales skills training, because again, not everyone was built the same way in sales. And there may be some kind of attribute that they don't have that we can work on with them to make them more successful through asking open-ended questions, understanding the language of the customer, speaking to them in their own language, and not trying to sell them anything. And at the end of the day, when you're not trying to sell anything, you're selling a whole lot of stuff, right? Because you're having just human-to-human contact, inquisitive conversation, and showing interest, and then talking that back to the customer. Did I get this right? And I'd love to come out and talk to you about the next thing. So we're starting something called First Meeting Matters, which you're aware, Tim. And because if the first meeting doesn't go well, you don't get the second. And it really has, in prior lives, become the number one opportunity generation because of the conversation, right?
All right. Well, again, onboarding, sometimes like a pain point, but often underinvested in and sometimes overlooked.
Yeah.
First meetings, I agree. Like sometimes we just think the first meeting is a formality to get to the second meeting and don't invest enough in both the talent and resources we apply to the first meeting and the skills and knowledge required to execute that first meeting. So I love that. And that also implies something else, that there are still distinctly human skills and human interactions required. So much hype about AI. So many questions about what's left for the seller to do and be. What do you see as those distinctly human skills that the customer is going to expect, and the experiences that are created are the things that will still matter? What are you looking at to make sure your humans can do, because that's what they're still going to bring to the table?
I mean, at the end of the day, people still buy from people. They do. Barring, any huge difference in the technology. But I do believe that it's that relationship that's so important. And if a customer can feel and witness that the rep has taken the time to understand their business, to provide use case examples of other customers in their space or in the challenge that they're having, that storytelling is so critically important, Tim. And if you can find the right story, it doesn't even have to be your own. You can make it your own. That's where the relationships with your peers come in, to say, how did you handle this? Here's, what's happening. If you can do that as a rep and not worry about selling anything, you're really selling yourself. But you took the time to understand who you were talking to. Look, it's like dating. Right? Is it you want to get the second date? You can get the second date because you have to sell yourself in understanding their needs and really applying that to what you already know, and then talking that back to the customer and say, did I get this right? We've experienced this with other customers in your same industry, and this is what they were battling with. Does that sound familiar? So I think it's just those conversations where you just don't bring up the product. It's not what's important. They're going to buy something. And by the time you get there, they probably already made up their mind. So it's, you have to build a relationship.
Well, so that to me is the epitome of kind of where we're at nowadays, is that they've already made up their mind. They're so pre-convinced by the time they meet with you that now they're trying to distinguish who really to help them move this thing forward, versus I'm starting from scratch here. I don't know what I need to do. There's so many options for buyer customers to get smart. And that's where I guess that's why it's so important what you're saying is so what's left then for the seller to do and be? And I think you nailed it. They now have to help that buyer, customer, decision maker feel comfortable that they are the most valuable, trusted, reliable partner and asset they could possibly work with. Yeah. And then that is a distinctly human sort of experience.
Yeah, because I'm sure you've been in a situation where you're buying something and you're being oversold. And it feels pressure, and you're like, all right. And then you went in thinking that's what you wanted, and the salesperson talked you out of it. Right? And so stop selling, start talking. Right?
Yeah.
We're building.
Yeah. I appreciate that's being sort of integrated and baked into the experience for your teams. And again, within a technical company, finding that balance to be incredibly helpful. Is there a personality or type of is there anything that's changed in terms of the talent pool you're looking for, given sort of this evolving skill set that they need to have? You talked about curiosity. You talked about a number of things. I'm just curious. Is there anything that's changed in the profile of hiring that you think will lend itself to the future talent pool or the talent skill set that the seller needs to have?
Yeah, I do. I think the attributes of the hiring profile have changed, and we do need people that, don't necessarily come from cybersecurity. So that is no longer required. It's people who know how to sell. It's people who know how to build relationships. It's how are they during the interview process, right? Because they're selling themselves. And so, we're no longer looking for, that, amazing rep that can do it all on their own and, all those kind of things. You should never win or lose a deal on your own, right? And so someone that really understands the importance of, being aligned to the right resources, how to talk to the customer, how to do proper research, the importance of self-education. I can't make people learn. I can't make them consume what we are creating. We want people that are curious and consider self-education as one of the top important things that they need to do while they work here. And so we talk a lot about the onboarding, talk about education and how important it is in their life, because if you don't learn, you don't move. You stay stagnant.
Your onboarding and all that's so intense. How intense is your interview and pre-assessment process? Have you put some real teeth into that too?
Yeah. The hiring process at Palo Alto Networks is very rigorous, and it's very hard, and it's very deep. And we want to make sure it's a good relationship on both sides, right? And because it is a culture that we're trying to maintain. And so it's hard to get here, but once you get here, it's amazing.
Sounds like it. I knew this would be a good time, that we would gain some unique insights that we wouldn't have expected to hear, but also just your perspective on how things are evolving and changing in Palo Alto Networks, being kind of at the forefront of this, because you are kind of on the leading edge of the tech that is keeping the world safe from cyber bullies and attacks and all those other things. You seem like the right person for that job. So thanks for your time today, Eileen.
Thank you. I was so honored to be asked.
That's all we've got for today. Thank you so much, Eileen Brooker. What a wonderful conversation. Thank you for listening. Find the Emblazers show on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And check out the Emblaze community at emblazegrowth.com. See you soon.